There we are. Okay. These are new things to me. This is good. Awesome. Catch my breath here, but it's all good. So you can hear me okay?
Yes, I hear you loud and clear.
Okay, wonderful. Awesome. Yeah, so thanks so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I mean, kind of started this sports show over COVID, and my buddy and I were doing it, and then he didn't really want to do it anymore, which was totally fine. But I'm like, I gotta find a way. So my first big guest was Rod Peterson back in June, and he was just sitting by the pool, and I was nervous as all get out because I was like, oh, I hope it works. And then go on summer holidays, and then I've had guys from our local hockey team, and then I had Bob McGregor on in November. I've had John Liu, I've had Jeffrey Bannon, who used to work for the Bombers and that sort of thing.
Fantastic.
So it's been huge. So yeah, and yeah, you are the first female I've had on, so I'm just very pumped about this. This is great.
Well, and Steve, you're in Steinbach, are you?
Yes, I am.
Well, before we start, I have to share with you my all-time favorite story from my life.
Okay.
Steinbach, okay? So
Yeah.
hopefully this will take very quick. It's actually one of my all-time favorite golf moments. So when I was working at CTV in Winnipeg, the mighty CKY, back in the day, I worked on the late shift, right? So late sports. So I'd start at 4 o'clock, and I would always try to get a golf game in.
Yeah.
And I had it in my head. I loved this I heard about Steinbach's golf course, and I thought, I've got to get out there. So I had a day, didn't matter what the weather was doing, I was going. Sure enough, it was light rain when I started out down the highway, got to the golf course, and then it started to turn to sleet. There was nobody there. I was by myself, but I wanted to get that 9 in. Not a word of a lie. I think it was the 4th or 5th hole. I actually got my very first and only eagle of my golf career, with the snow coming down. And I remember it as clear as day. And there was nobody there.
Yeah.
The guys in the pro shop, they didn't believe me, but that's my story from Steinbach. I'll never forget. It was my only eagle to this day.
Nice.
In the snow in April in Steinbach.
Right on. That is just, I mean, yeah, I mean, that's a great memory to have, right? And every town that you're in, you think you have some sort of story. So I mean, that's yours. That's huge.
I do indeed. Lovely town. I enjoyed going out there when I was based in Winnipeg.
Yes. And so speaking of Winnipeg, researched a bit. You were hired in 1991 from what you actually did post. So that's where I got it from. Peter Young hired you. So I had Peter on 2 days ago. And so he started talking all about you right at the end, and I was like, well, I'm thinking, oh, you're coming on and that sort of thing. So so how was that experience? Was that before TSN or after TSN?
Well, Steve, it actually is before and after TSN, because I actually was working in the TSN newsroom in Toronto. I'd actually done a physical education degree, and then I realized I was working in campus radio. I'd played soccer for my university team, and they needed more women's sports on the air. So it all began me interviewing my teammates, and bit of a lark, right? Like, why don't you pass me the ball, Danowski, right? And then I realized I like English, I like drama, and I love sports. I grew up with boys, and so I had a strong sports knowledge. And so from that, I actually ended up volunteering at the TSN newsroom in Toronto. I used to drive in from my hometown of Guelph and work for free on the weekends, just learning about the business. And so I did that. I was the first female actually hired as an editorial assistant in the newsroom. And I spent about 18 months in that role, and then I wanted to be a reporter. And so I took 8 months trying to find my first reporting job. And Peter Young,
Yes.
gave me that opportunity. They flew me out. Rod Black, sorry, Rod Smith is also TSN.
Yes, yes.
Rod Black was being promoted to the network. And so there was an opportunity and they gave me a chance, but my audition was I had to cover a Jets Blackhawks game right from the beginning to the end. So I did the skate, filed a story for the Six, and then covered the game and then post game. And that was my first on-air job, and I'll never forget it, coming into Winnipeg, February 1991, to start my career as a reporter.
Yeah, right on. Have there been career highlights? Well, obviously there's been highlights. What career highlights did you have in the sports business? Obviously there was.
Yeah, there's a few.
Yeah.
Well,
there is a few.
The longer you're in anything, right, the more highlights you gain. And I spoke about just that highlight of being in Steinbach in the snow and getting an eagle. That's a highlight for me, and it had nothing to do with broadcasting. But I think getting that first job in Winnipeg and actually then becoming the first TSN reporter for Winnipeg, covering Teemu Selanne. If we just keep this to Manitoba, covering all those great bomber teams that were, unfortunately, it seemed they would get to the Grey Cup and then lose the Grey Cup. But those Teemu Selanne years were very special, and those I will always stay with me. And they were formative years for me just as a person, leaving home and working in Winnipeg. And I consider Winnipeg and Manitoba one of my homes. And I feel very, really lucky and grateful when I can come back to Manitoba and see people. And I always am supporting Manitoba. I guess other big highlights, though, for me would be covering an Olympic Games. We rarely get that opportunity. It really depends if we are at the right network at the right time that Olympics comes around. So to cover women's hockey at Vancouver at a home Olympics, that was very special. And that was definitely, the pressure is on for sure, right, Steve? When you've got
it is
a home game, it's Canada, the United States in the gold medal final. And later I found out close to 8 million were watching that game. So that would be the highest pressure I would feel as a broadcaster in terms of an event to cover. Yeah. And my last big highlight would be to break into the broadcast booth and call hockey and basketball, which I did for the Score, I guess now 20 odd years ago. Yeah. So to evolve the broadcast booth, right? So you're hearing a female voice calling a game.
Totally. I mean, you were the first to do play-by-play for women's hockey, right? So, I mean, that's massive.
Yeah, well, I think it was neat to be able to do that. I will admit I took faster to basketball because, of course, the nature of the game, the substitutions, it's a slower pace. You're right there, right on the floor. You can, it's much easier. Whereas hockey, obviously the pace of the game changing, right? It's the numbers and names. It's numbers and names, and you've got to have it. So I leaned on Bob Cole, Mr. Cole. I leaned on Chris Cuthbert. I leaned on many people, to Joe Bowen from the Maple Leafs. And so trying to understand how you even prepare for that. What do your notes look like? And you don't really know that until you go into it. But I share with any young person who wants to get into broadcasting, wants to become a play-by-play announcer, to go to university, to junior hockey, to get your reps. It's all about the reps. And I really did not get enough reps to keep that going further on in my career.
I see. And so how long were you broadcasting for? Like, I know you made that transition into you call it your passion project.
Yeah.
And I just love that, because when I can relate. So
yeah, exactly. You always want to do something that gives you your, that gives you your juice, right? That turns your crank, right? Something that really gets you fired up, right? And so I guess I spent, if you count my days at TSN as a writer, and when I first started actually covering Maple Leaf skates, that's 1989, and then till CTV in 2017. So we're talking about 32 years, I guess, if my math is correct. So 32 years in sports media. And then, but while I was at Vancouver, which we were talking about, my child at the time, my daughter was 3 years old, and I was looking for books to read to her that were about different types of sport.
Yeah.
So going back to my kinesiology, my phys ed degree, this is really where my Lucy Tries Sports books are all about. So it's about encouraging our next generation to be active, number one, to persevere. That's why it says Lucy Tries, and to do so as they're learning to read. So Lucy books are for kids ages 3 to 8. And I'm really concerned about our physical literacy with our young children today, especially coming out of COVID. So their movement rates are really not where they should be. In fact, less than 5% of Canadian kids age 5 to 11 right now are reaching their recommended movement guidelines. So that means 95% are not. And so that's a real concern for me. And so also with COVID, their learning outcomes are a bit behind, right? And how can they not be? Because that was completely disrupted. So reading literacy is where I'm at as well, Steve. So I'm very excited though. Book 6 is coming out. So here's my opportunity to let your viewers and your listeners know that there it is. Yeah, Lucy Tries Baseball is coming out in April. So we're in the countdown. And what we love about the Lucy books, though, is that they are diverse and inclusive, and they reinforce healthy principles of child development. So even on our final page, you see there's Lucy and her friends.
Yep.
And in the very beginning, it's all about the active play, right? Active lifestyle. So there she is playing with her grandparents and her parents. And so it's fundamentals, it's having fun, it's mastering a skill, it's all those things. So really excited about this coming out in French, Spanish.
It's getting off this, right?
Exactly. Well, yeah, and you can't fault the educators. Or, I mean, they had to have the kids online to learn through COVID. And I'm sure parents had to lean on that as well. But now we have to remember the importance of being active. Because when you have an active start, you will have an active life. And that's very strong research that we know. Anyway, I went on a little bit there, but that's because it's a passion project, as I said.
That's all good. I mean, I get told up like you always talk about your show, Steve. Yeah, like I got hats, you know.
Ooh, I like it.
Yeah, so
Late Night with Smitty.
Yeah, Late Night with Smitty. So I got a guy here in town to make a logo. And then I did one batch of hats, and then I'm like, well, I'll do another. And then I ordered a third batch. So they're in my trunk of my car. I've sent them to Calvin Tegel in Maryland. Okay. I've sent them to Northwest Territories, Toronto.
Amazing.
It's kind of crazy, but yeah, it's good.
Well, we should do an exchange, a hat for a book.
You know what? I had that thought. I thought you may say that.
Great minds think alike, right?
Yeah, that's right. I have a 6-year-old and an 11-year-old, so yeah.
Oh, there you go. Perfect. Yeah. Well, we have hockey too, right? Hockey as well. Hockey. We have soccer. Okay. I'm not sure what the 6-year-old's doing, but we have. Oops, that's baseball again. My
son, he loves hockey. He just
okay.
Yeah, and then so my daughter's into choir and gymnastics.
Oh, good for her.
I shouldn't say but that's good. That's good. That's excellent.
It is good as long as they're active and moving, because as I say to them in my school visits, right? Your bodies were designed to move. And when you move, your body's happy, right? So
yep. Whether it's a workout or, hey, I feel good going to work or.
Exactly. And the hockey book I will share with you actually on this particular edition, Wickenheiser. So Haley is on the back of this particular edition. So I'm very fortunate that a lot of the Olympians and the athletes that I've interviewed over my career are really big Lucy supporters. And again, you see, we have opening scene, skating, being active with our grandparents, right?
Yeah.
And so your son, if he's learning hockey, trying the game, Hockey Canada gave me the development principles. So this is truly simulating what a young child would experience as they try hockey. And here is actually the Superman drill.
Oh, yeah.
Time to fall forward. That's right. Be prepared. Heads up, hands out. No need to be scared. And this is actually PK Subban was the inspiration
Nice.
behind that character in Lucy Tries Hockey.
Right on.
Yeah.
I mean, that's awesome. That's a way to articulate things, right? And like, obviously that's thinking outside the box. Are you not partnering with did I hear something about partnering with the Blue Jays? I think Peter Young had said something to me about that.
Yes, well, we just did. Yeah, well, we're very, very lucky and grateful to TD Bank, who is a big supporter of reading literacy.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, Lucy Tries Basketball was a TD Summer Reads selection, top 10 selection a few years ago. And so I told TD Bank about how we have baseball coming out, and they're a big supporter of Jays Care.
Yeah.
And so they just did a very nice school donation to a school in Toronto during the Blue Jays winter tour.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
So that's what we're all about, like trying to, work with all the teams and the leagues. And I've done a lot of work here with the Cavalry FC. So like Valor FC in Winnipeg with the Canadian Premier League. And we've done a school activation with that team, and also with Sport Check actually before 2016 in the Rio Olympics. So I'm always looking at those connections, right? Because it's at the end of the day, it's really all about getting our next generation to be healthy. And that's what it's about, children's health, to be reading and to be moving so they can lead healthier and happier lives.
Yeah, that's exactly it, right? And yeah, I mean, it's no pun intended, hats off to you, right? And it's I mean, that's great. So when did you start the project? Was it 2015, 2014? I'm guessing here.
Well, it actually, it's funny because some people say to me about, I'll have lots of people will ask me about wanting to write a children's book. And what's interesting about this process, Steve, is that I thought that breaking into sports media when I did, where there were very few women in Canada, there was quite a few more in the United States, like Hannah Storm and Andrea Kramer and Susie Kolber. I mean, these were women that I looked up to, but also I really wanted to be Dan Patrick. I wanted to be like Dan Patrick. It was actually some of the men who I looked up to as like really more in many ways. But sorry, I digress. The point is that because back at that time, sorry, what was the question again?
When did you get back into or the transition time from broadcasting?
Oh, yes, that's right. Sorry.
To
you
the
have
book.
To understand, Steve, I am going to just say, and please, for your viewers, this is very late that we are doing this, right?
Yes.
We are recording this at a very late hour.
I've done a show with my buddy Shay. I did a show at 10:30 at night, my time, 8:30 his time. And he goes, that's past my bedtime. I'm like, I'm going to bed at 11:30.
Yeah, I'm just not as sharp as I usually am. If I just have a drink of water here, I'm going to sharpen up a bit. One sec here.
That's all good.
What I was trying to say here was that breaking into sports media was very difficult, but actually this was much harder to do because to actually have your books published, it can take, you really have to believe in your project, believe in yourself, and persevere. Because for me, the journey, it took 7 years for the first Lucy book to be published and 15 rejections. So many publishers said no to our first story, which was Lucy Tries Luge. So I was going outside the box and connecting tobogganing to the sliding sport of luge. So it was really, it took a long time. And I started the process really writing right before Vancouver, so 2009. But the first Lucy book did not come out until truly 2008 to 2015.
Okay.
Yeah. So 7 years, 2008 to 20. Yeah. So it never came out to 2015. So now you say to yourself, wow, but then you recognize, you look back and you go, wow, you persevered and look what happened. You're now book 6 in 2023. But getting that first yes, I mean, J.K. Rowling, right? She had 26, 27 rejections, but you get that, all you're looking for is that one yes, right? So you never give up.
As they say, get that foot in the door. right?
You never give up. You never give up,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing about that journey because I'm sure, yeah, lots of people need to hear that, and yeah, I appreciate that encouragement for sure as
Well,
well.
yeah, if you believe in something, there's always going to be no's. There's always going to, and failure works. That's one of my favorite sayings is
Mhm.
failure works.
Yeah.
And that's from actually James Dyson with the vacuum, right? He had like 3,582 prototypes or whatever. And then that last one finally worked, right? So he's
Right.
saying failure works. You just keep doing it and then you'll eventually get that yes.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly it. And as you say, you're onto your sixth book. You're also, I see you into a lot of schools and that sort of thing.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
so yeah, having that impact. Did you not? Um, so I mean, I don't mean to whatever. It's I think I saw a picture with Jamie Campbell as well. Was he out?
Jamie Campbell. So that was that book donation that went to the Blue Jays winter tour.
Okay. Yeah.
And so we had the book actually hasn't even been printed yet. Lucy Tries Baseball, also
Mhm.
Lucy Joue Baseball, Lucy Oega al Bisbol. I don't speak Spanish, but it is also translated into Spanish. And so Jamie was hosting the Blue Jays winter tour. He's a dear friend of mine, and we got him an advanced reading copy, and that was how he was able to pose with that picture even
Okay.
before the books are
Okay.
delivered.
As I say, I mean to say, I think I saw that on my feed, so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna mark that one down. So
Yes. Well, I've had honestly Dan Schulman, who is a dear friend of mine. He and I go back to remember I told you about our days at when I started campus radio.
Mhm.
Well, Dan actually, he and I worked on a university hockey game together. I was the host and he was doing play-by-play. And Dan
Crazy.
Schulman and he's given me a beautiful endorsement for Lucy Tries Baseball, as has Chris Rietzma, who is a major leaguer out of Calgary here, who I actually covered when he was drafted by Boston, and Justin Morneau, the former American League MVP, who is a father of five.
Yeah.
And Justin also gave me a beautiful endorsement for Lucy Tries Baseball. So we're really excited about that.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, those are definitely some big names. And yeah, when you mention Schulman, I mean, I can listen to. I don't think he ever makes a mistake calling a Jays game.
Beautiful voice.
It's crazy. It's yeah.
It's just a beautiful, beautiful voice for baseball, especially.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, I feel very, very grateful to Dan.
Yeah, totally. And then yeah, he's a bit of an aside there. He's kind of passed that down to his son as well.
I saw that. Is his name Ben? I think it's
Yeah,
Ben.
Ben. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh wow, like it's just crazy how that all kind of works, right? Yeah, it's good. Yeah, when I think of you, Lisa, I always think of you and Teresa Cruz together. And then I look at the network now. So just a few names: Kate Burness, Lindsay Hamilton, Sarah Davis, Jennifer Hedger, of course, and I'm sure I'm missing a few in there. So I know I am, but those are the ones that came to mind.
Sarah Orlesky.
Sarah Oleski, yes, Winnipeg's own. Yeah, who I've had requests to come on the show. So
Yes, you should have Sarah on. Absolutely.
And she's done tremendously well. Yeah, I mean, there's some people out of Regina there too. I saw one at the Grey Cup. Again, the name escapes me. I'm always put on the spot.
Claire Hanna, maybe Claire Hanna.
Yeah, Clara Han. Yeah, sorry, I'm usually better than this. So
that's okay. It's late at night, right?
It's late at night. Yeah, and I just killed a mouse. So
I mean, come on, priorities. I'm out, getting that mouse or, having a long chat with me.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's all good. So yeah. I
But
asked.
there's lots more. You're right, though. There's definitely many more. So we have a much more of a balance, right? It was always that was the thing, is to create a balance.
Yes.
On the air.
Right. And that's why I say, like, I truly think that you are a bit of a trailblazer in that regard. Like, it just boom, like, because now it's huge, and I think it's great. And yeah, and you just, as you say, it creates that balance, um, and it doesn't shock anybody.
No, that's right. That's right. It's very different today than it was back in the day. Back in the day, people like Teresa and Brenda Irving, who I've tremendous
Mhm.
respect for. Brenda Irving, I wish she needs more props. Actually, she should be on the cover of Chatelaine, and someone should really, because Brenda, I swear, she just called like her 12th Olympics or something like that. So, I mean, the thing is that back then there weren't many of us, so therefore there was much more attention put on us, and we had to make sure that, and I think T would agree with me, we had to be perfect, and no one is perfect. And so now I think, though, that if someone made a mistake and by accident mispronounced someone's name, I think they'd say, oh, she just had that brain cramp. Whereas back in the day, if we had done that, it would have been because we were a female. So I think the only time I can tell you where I think about a particular stampeder who told me one time that he said, "I hope you don't take this the wrong way, Lisa, but I was watching you the other night, and you're actually you're really good, and I actually forgot you were a woman. I hope that doesn't come across badly." And I
Yeah.
said, "Oh my gosh, no! Like for me,
Right.
that was the best thing I'd ever heard." Now,
Hmm.
some women might say, hold on, but no, no, no. You know, to walk a mile in my shoes, that was everything. For him to actually not even see my appearance, he just saw me as a sportscaster.
Yeah.
I probably spent 25 years telling people I'm not a female sportscaster. I'm a sportscaster.
That,
Of course I am.
right. I mean, that's true. I mean, there's been times on Monday Night Football where, and again, I should have researched this, but like, she's doing the play-by-play, and she's just getting reefed over the coals on social media. And I always say to myself, well, they're doing it and you're not. So, I just respect the process, right?
Yes.
And
It,
uh,
that's right. It's being broadcasters, right? The only thing is when it's something that is new and you haven't heard that female voice calling a game,
mhm,
that is something for people to have to get used to. And then it as I told you, it takes reps and more reps. And there's a wonderful young broadcaster who's now in Montreal for TSN, who I actually really have been supporting her, Kenzie Lalonde, and she was
mhm,
doing junior games. I think Halifax Mooseheads, if I'm not mistaken, on the cable station out in Halifax. And she played youth sports hockey, and so she was getting lots of, and then next thing you know, there she is on TSN calling some of the women's games. And that's what you want. You want to, like any broadcaster, male or female, you need to get the reps and earn it.
mhm.
I'm very big on merit. And so if you're earning it, that's the way to go. And that's for anybody. And so, but the thing is that before, though, it would be, we had to be twice as good or we had to be perfect to be accepted. And that's for our colleagues, the teams, the players, the coaches, the GMs. But if you were out there all the time, right? If I was there at every Jets game, every practice, right, learning that team, right,
Mhm.
making sure that I was covering them well, then I gained their respect. And that's really what it was about. And so now when you have more women there in this field, like the industry's in a good place, and it's wonderful to see that balance. And I'm really excited to see more and more of them taking on the play by play.
For sure. I think of Sarah Oleski. I was at the Banjo Bowl, and like she got very emotional, and she's so adored in this town. Oh, we got 10 minutes left.
Yeah.
uh Make sure I don't press anything too bad. So yeah,
Yeah.
she's adored in this town, and it's like, and she got very emotional, and all the best to the Jets. And it's just okay, well, this is what she does, right? But she earned it, right?
Absolutely. And you can see that respect from the players and from the general managers, from everybody,
Yeah.
that she earned that. And you can see that in how they have responded to her leaving TSN and taking on that job with the Jets. You can see it from across the CFL. And that's a testament to her work ethic and to her talent. And that's full stop. That's what that is, right?
Right.
And it's wonderful to see. And it's wonderful to see. It's a great example. She's a wonderful example. And it's funny too, because a lot of the young broadcasters who I actually mentor are actually males.
Okay.
Which you might not think of, but that's the truth.
Yeah, I mean that tide turns, right? And I mean, again, it's that balance, and it's great. And as I say, it just comes from, as well, you say, the reps, and I just think, there has to be those foots in the door to make it all go, right?
That's right. You just need someone
and Leah Hextall too.
And Leah Hextall as well. That's right. You just need somebody to give the opportunity, and the reps are the big thing. And then that's up to that person to like make it happen. So it's a similar thing I'm telling you about me mentoring young males. It's the same thing as little boys looking for Christine Sinclair's autograph.
Yeah.
Same kind of thing, right? So I just love that. And I think with that's why I feel that there's a similarity with our Lucy books, where we've actually put a female character, and it was never going to be actually a female character on our Lucy series. I mean, it was really, I had different characters. For example, I was even writing Curtis Tries Curling, and it was Lucy Tries Luge. And then as soon as James Hearn, our brilliant illustrator, drew her, I mean, I cried, because I thought, oh my gosh, we've got this opportunity to have this female in the sports space and sports literature, which is very unique, but again, kind of ties back to my background. And so little boys love Lucy just as much as little girls. 100%, she is an empowering figure for our little girls.
For sure.
Boys love her too, because kids don't see gender. So they see her as a cool kid. So your son, I'm hoping he reads a Lucy book, maybe hockey, and he sees himself in this story. He sees himself, and then he starts thinking, what else could Lucy and friends try? And I have boys say to me, Lucy could try football. And I get to say yes, because girls now play tackle football, or maybe it's flag football. So there's all these interesting elements to it, Steve, that really do flow from, I guess, my experience as a sportscaster in this country, all that I've learned, a kinesiology background, a mom background, all the teaching I've done, and kind of it all sort of morphs into this series. And the end goal is a truly altruistic. I really care about our kids and where they're heading in terms of having a healthy life, and the benefits that they get from sport. Breaks my heart if they're not able to access that, get those fundamental movement skills. Because if they don't get the fundamentals, then they'll be less likely to have the confidence to try hockey, to try baseball. They just need to learn to catch and throw, right?
Yeah.
And then they'll try baseball. So I want the parents too to understand that important element, and encourage the parents to just play catch with your child in the backyard. Spend some time that way. So just trying to encourage without preaching. I don't want to preach, but I'm trying to just say, gosh, isn't this wonderful for your family to get involved in sport if you can?
Yeah, I mean, my son's in the Timbits. I'm not saying he's going to make the NHL, but I can see the improvement. And then we go for skates on a Sunday afternoon, and I can see it, and it's encouraging, and it's better than the iPad. There's a time and place, but it can't be all the time, as you said.
It's all in moderation, absolutely. And I'm not saying put down the phones, put down the iPads. I'm just saying maybe just take a little break and head outside, get some fresh air. And that's the interesting thing about the hockey book. It is truly simulating that Timbits experience. And in fact, there is not a game in this book, actually. There's no game. What happens is they're basically saying that they want to have their own team and just go out and play. So at the back end here, this is really about outdoor free play.
Okay.
So no game in Lucy Tries Hockey. It's
Yeah.
really what your son is experiencing.
Yeah,
And then
just all the facets of stick handling, shooting on the
learning,
net.
yes, exactly. And
Yeah.
then they do an obstacle race, right? And I was
Mhm.
very lucky to actually join Hometown Hockey, and we did a number of select stops in the fan hub. So I was in a number of with Ron and Tara,
Yeah,
which was tremendous to be able to then engage with young families at that event.
right on. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Looking at our time here, we got about 4 minutes left.
Okay.
I was asked a question by one of the people in the group. Where does your maybe you've touched on this, I think you have. Where does your love of sport come from, and what sports have you played?
My love of sports really does come from me growing up with boys on my street. And I have a younger brother
Hmm.
and with his friends. And so, like, I grew up playing caps and trading ball cards. Got him, need him. Uh, and we played all those kind of games outside, and then I'd be at the park with them. So playing baseball and going to the hockey rink. So I really had that love of sports really helped socialize me in many ways.
Hmm.
And then as I became older, I wanted to become a phys ed teacher. That's how I went to university in the first place, and then got involved, as I said, through playing soccer into media. Do I still play? So I played soccer actually right up until I was 35.
Okay.
Played indoor soccer, and I ski and snowboard, but I lately now I've been kind of more in the golf. I like to hike. I mean, I love passing the ball around, the soccer ball with my child. She's 16 now, but
Nice.
I love tennis. Actually, I'm a big racket sports person as
Hmm.
well. So those are my months now, but I do really want to get back into curling. I tried it when university, and I'd like to get back into that now because it is a great game. So it's really about that active life, right? But that's where it came from, growing up with boys in Guelph,
Hmm.
Ontario, and really being socialized in sport.
Right. Yeah, because what I've noticed is that it's not when you get involved like Suns hockey, meeting other people that you wouldn't see in the other realms of your life. You're just it opens it up and hey, how are you or whatever. Like I work
It,
in sales, I see a ton of people, but I don't see those people at my work. Whatever.
it's a
It's
social thing, right? It
it
is a
is.
total social thing. And that's what I'm trying to encourage with my daughter, who is 16, as I said, and she's in track and field. That's what she's decided that she likes. And so it's really the social thing. And that's so important for girls, that we remember to keep girls with their friends in sport, or they will drop out at that 12, 13 age group. So yeah, social is key for youth sports. And then later on as adults, right? Beer leagues, right? Why are guys, girls playing in beer leagues, right? Well, they're playing to be active, but mostly it's about the social.
Yeah, I was asked to actually give one of my hats to a beer league social they're having. They've had it for 30 years, so that's what they're doing. And so, hey, I'll support it, and because they've been through
Yeah,
anniversaries, deaths, etc. Right? So,
yeah.
and we got less than 1 minute. So, with
Okay.
Facebook Live, you just keep going, but it's all good.
Well, I guess we could say this is a succinct 40 minutes
It is.
conversation.
Yeah, and generally I go about that. Sometimes a bit longer, but this has been really good, Lisa. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. This has
Well,
been
it was a pleasure. Thank you, Steve, for inviting me. I'm sorry we weren't on Facebook Live where people could ask me questions live, but
yes.
at least we got a chance. And now you and I are on Zoom.
Yes,
And now
it's true. It's crazy. Even though it says my wife's name underneath, I am not Krista.
awesome. Well, thanks again for having me, and enjoy the rest of the Jets season. We'll see if they got enough A for the spring.
Oh yes, I'm